Alright. Welcome back to The Seven Deadly Sins. Anime Review, Episode 50. Wow, 50. Now, I did look it up. Apparently, the last anime review series that actually hit this number was My Hero Academia. Like, last year. Yeah, that was the last unofficial one that hit 50, which, that's good. Now, what could be the next one hit 50? Fire Force. Yep. Well, that'll depend upon when I get a chance to read the newest chapter of the manga, so there's that. So, this is the newest episode for 7 Notice, and it's the 20th, this is overall the 20th episode for Season 4, and the 95th episode of the anime, The Struggle. This one adapts pretty much the entirety of chapters 331, 333, and they start adapting 334, mostly the first couple pages of the chapter. Yep. And pretty much like in this episode, we begin where we left off last week, where the Sins are battling Demon King, where he's basically the whole of Britannia, and they throw all their attacks at him, and then of course Meliodas, thanks to a combined effort of his full accounts with his illusions, he's able to basically enough power to simply disintegrate the Demon King. And he's able to go on sort of another plane with him where he pretty much has a final show off with his father. And he basically says, well, you beat me. And this ends the age of light and darkness. And and what comes next? They don't say what it is, but it's kind of teasing something potentially for something later. And he's like, yeah, I know. And then Demon King just blows away. Yep. And you think it's done. Nope. There's actually a little bit of Demon King's power left. Namely, the 10 Commandments. Well, the Commandments themselves. So, Meliodas uses his own Demon King power to destroy them. But he actually briefly stopped by Zedros, his brother. And then eventually decides to simply just destroy them. Now, I should point out, most of this stuff is completely accurate to the manga until what happens next. Okay, so 10 Commandments are gone. The skies turn back normal. And, of course, they do briefly go into basically 34 at this point. When everybody's celebrating. The Demon King finally being defeated. The Holy War being officially been over. And then, like, we got back to feel like everybody's all celebrating. Of course, everybody's all exhausted from the fighting because Merlin used his power break ability to unleash that big humongous battle, that big humongous attack to destroy the Demon King. Now, Zedros asked the obvious question: how are we able to destroy the Demon King without destroying the whole country? Well, the lake. Yes, this lake that has limitless magic. And despite the fact the base was destroyed, the water is still there. And is able to absorb all this magic into it. That's the reason why the whole country was destroyed. Despite the fact, from the look of it, basically, it looked like an atomic bomb was dropped on the country, based on the explosion. And then tragedy strikes, basically, where, now, I'm glad the fact the anime did change this a little bit. Not by much, but they kept the scene in. What scene is it? The death of Eskanor. Yes, he actually dies in this very episode. At episode 95 of all things, yes. He debuted back in the Ravens arc. Yeah, because it was actually during season 2 when he finally showed up in the series. It was during the Ravens arc. That's when he officially showed up in the series. Around episode 9. Technically episode 34 of the anime. That was his first appearance in the series. Well, he did appear briefly at the end of episode 24. Which was 26. Though he did make a full debut, I would say it was a cameo. His first full appearance was in episode 34, roughly about 8 episodes later. And he's been around this Seven since then. Excuse me, for 61 episodes since his debut. I gotta say, not bad amount of appearance. I think he missed like a few of them. Not by much. And they do have some... Now, what is the alterations they make to this particular scene? It's presented mostly the same, except the first change you probably would notice, though, is Eskanor's head, and it's somewhat his body. In the manga, it's already disintegrating as he's speaking. In the anime, it's like building up toward that, and because he can't exactly move anymore because the power is all over his whole body, he does think everybody basically. So the first one he thinks is, let's see, it's Gothar. Yes, have been thinking of a good friend. He does apologize to King and Deanne for not attending their wedding, and he tells Bond not to drink too much, obviously, and he tells Meliodas that he's basically his best friend, which I think for Meliodas, he could probably consider that too. Probably one of two people of the sins he can consider to be his best friends, along with Bond himself. And of course, he thanks Mel for the power. And finally, he talks to Merlin. He admits to her finally, just before he dies, that he's always loved her. Not just because it's not because she looks like Rosa, but because she dreamed basically like a normal person. It's like, how did you know that when treated like a specimen? And he mentioned about crimes to come. It's like, how would you know that? And he's like, it's a hunch. Yep. And then he starts disintegrating right there. And then Merlin just walks up to him and then kisses him. Now, I should point out, though, that yes, this does happen in the manga too. And of course, he basically is not, well, he just want to get her because she is smoking hot. And then she basically burns her own face. I should point out that the burn mark was completely different in the manga. Like, in the manga, in the anime, they just basically cover her chin and a little bit of her hand. In the manga, it basically went up her face and just past her lips. Yes, actually was a change. My guess is the reason why they actually changed this. This is my personal theory. I think the animators were afraid of ruining Merlin's beautiful face, so they just basically burned her chin. Yep. And she points out that this is I burn my face as a sign of remind me of the only man who loved me. That's basically her line. And he basically, just before he dies, he basically has some poetry for her, which from what I could tell she does appreciate. And then eventually he does die. He disintegrates and he's power like all over the place, and it goes and explodes, and that's the end of Eskanor. And that's the episode. I got handed to the anime. This actually was really good. I was really hoping the anime would not ruin this scene. As well, I know that they kind of ruined the whole thing when Eskanor had his fight with Meliodas in the last season. This episode, I know Studio Dean gets a lot of flack for what happened with the last season of the show, with the animation. This season, by far, 20 episodes in, Studio Dean, I think the delay actually helped it. Gives them more time to basically develop the animation. It looks really good. It's basically on par with what they had back in season 2 of the series. And I was kind of hoping they would not ruin this scene by basically having like a small, like basically doing something bad. But no. Studio Dean did an absolutely fantastic job with this scene. It's presented pretty much the same way. Yes, they make some slight alterations. Like, for instance, in the manga, you actually see Eskanor when he's speaking. In the anime, you actually don't see him speak before he turn around. You see him disintegrating. Well, we don't. I mean, you could think of it as slight alterations here and there, but still the same scene presented in chapter 333. It's done really well, and I remember when I reviewed this chapter. I think it was just last year, I gave the chapter a 10 out of 10 because how beautiful the chapter was. And I still stand by that, basically, that rating, a 10 out of 10. 1 year later, because it was a beautiful ending for a great character. I mean, one of my first favorite characters, my favorite male character the whole series, because of all he was developed, and the fact how interesting of a character he is. He's got good poetry. Well, yeah, he's in love with Merlin, obviously. I mean, I think it's hinted that Merlin does know that he has feelings for her, but she does know before he dies. Basically, she's sorry that she can recuperate his feelings, and well, that's when I have the mark on it. So thank you, Studio D, for not ruining this amazing scene from the manga. You guys did a fantastic job with it, and I'm hoping other viewers feel the same way when people finally review this episode. Yes. And basically next week, we're finally going to the Chaos Arc. Yep. And I did look up online. Apparently, this arc is only going to be set for 3 episodes, which I kind of predicted. I was kind of thinking 2, but because they probably don't want to rush 8 chapters in 2 episodes, they want to spread out like a little bit, not by much. So we're going to get this over the course of 3 episodes, which that's fine. I have no problem with the fact that it's going to be 3 episodes. And of course, the epilogue is going to be done in, I think it's going to be in the final, let's see. Let's see. Yeah, so pretty much the final 2 episodes of the series will cover the epilogue, which is only 2 episodes. Yes. So this season actually would be longer than previous seasons. Previous seasons were 24 episodes. This season is roughly going to be 25 episodes. I gotta admit, ending episode 100 was actually a pretty smart move on the part of the anime. At least they'll be able to say they actually adapted the whole entire thing. Though, that is an excuse, basically, some of the stuff they did in the previous season, where some episodes only get up to half of a freaking chapter, where they skip the first half of the chapter and then bother after the next episode. So, I'll give my final thoughts on the season when the last episode officially airs, which is basically going to be in 5 weeks from this week. Yes. So, I will also give a bonus episode. Well, 55 will basically discuss the final episode of the series. Well, there are probably a couple additional ones because, well, there is a movie coming out for this series. Yep, a movie. A second movie, mind you, which I think is supposed to come out in the summertime. Yes, it's called... It is Cursed by Light. Yes. And I think ending at episode 100 is actually a really smart move, given how fact this series basically... 100 seems like a good episode to end at. I mean, can you think of an actual anime that any other previous anime of any other company over the years where they ended at episode 100? I've seen live action series end at 100, like, best example, Stargate Atlantis in episode 100. 100 is a great episode. Well, a great episode number, but I don't know why Japan doesn't, let's say, celebrate a lot more the fact it's 100 episodes means it goes syndication. Yep. Syndication. So, not much else to say this episode. It's very good. And I can't wait for next week, which begins the beginning of the end of the series. Yep. So, yeah. That's it for this particular review. Stay tuned for one more video coming today, like I'm a little bit. And it'll be a review of the 3 most recent episodes released for Don't Toy Me, Miss Naguro. And presumably, if I get time to, I might get a chance to do a couple of videos after that. But otherwise, though, that'll be... Well, there is one thing I should mention, though. I did find out, apparently, yesterday released new Gilmore episodes for One Piece. So, I'm probably going to be watching that tomorrow. Yep, probably watch One Piece tomorrow. Yep, so expect to see that tomorrow, along with, well, other stuff. I'll discuss more of that later, okay? To this video. Bye.